Do you have the TNCRadio.live app? It's free and easy to download. Just go to app.tncradio.live, Google Play, or the App Store. Get access to live streaming radio developed by drivers for drivers. Download the TNCRadio.live app today.
Good evening. Welcome in TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with Larry and Angie Baum.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Taillights with the Baums. I'm your host, Angie.
And I'm Larry. And how's everybody doing? And Tom, you are sounding amazing today.
Yes, he sounds much better. We have our good friend Matt Kilmer with us tonight. And Matt, you want to say hi to everybody?
Howdy, folks. It's been a long time. Glad to be back.
So I thought we'd start off and say, lots happened since the last time we met you. Like, for example, you have a new trucking gig. And so I thought maybe we could explain that because you've had a rough couple of weeks. But it's like, I think every trucker can relate because in some way or fashion, we've all kind of been in that situation. Not exactly as badly as what you've been in.
Yeah, the last 30 days has been interesting to be the understatement of the year. Everybody's got New Year's resolutions. This one, I wish I had made mine on the 1st of January. It didn't quite happen, and the end result was fun. Last 30 days, a lot has happened, including the fact that my company was really hanging on by a string. I was a lot like a lot of the owner-operators out here that are pulling broker freight. I was hanging on. Each day I was hanging on with hope that the prices and rates would come up. I know a lot of people that I was, still working with, still helping along the way. And my truck had lost a little bit of power on the way home on its last trip. We got it into the shop and realized that the loss of power was because the turbo was basically eating itself on the inside, and all the metal had gotten into the fuel line system, had gotten into the injectors. By the time I actually reached the house, I limped it along. By the time I actually reached the house and shut it down, she wouldn't start back up. We got it towed into the shop. Found out that the $24,000 that used to cost to rebuild an engine is now going to cost me somewhere around $40,000 to rebuild this truck, engine, fuel system, the whole 9 yards. They found metal in the fuel lines, and the truck is basically, going in to be sold for parts at this point, which at the same token also kind of puts my company on hold. And, I went through some rough periods, with everything that's happened in the last 30 days. And I don't want to get too deep involved, but with the truck and the company and another major issue, I won't say wasn't knocked down, but I kicked my feet, my boots back on after about 2 days and put a big smile back on my face and say that, this wasn't going to be what knocks me down. I wasn't going to let the enemy and destroy the person that I was. And I put a smile back on my face, and I had a couple of good people that had heard about what was going on, several good people, including yourself and Larry, that made a few phone calls. And next thing I know, I was getting job offers over the phone, and I ended up getting into a position with a owner operator out of Nebraska, and basically hauling potatoes back and forth between North Dakota and Topeka, Kansas, which puts me about 62 miles from the house when I feel like stopping. But, a good run and good company, good people. He's only got 3 trucks, which I kind of understand. I know how that works. He's a little younger than me, so I get to teach him a few new things. Not a lot of new things, but a few new things. And he realizes he's got a good trucker on his hands. The one thing I get a kick out of, he keeps calling me a driver, and I keep laughing. I said, I'm no driver. I said, I'm an old school truck driver. I said, please don't ever use driver terminology on me. That's the only thing I ask of you. I said, I'll laugh, but I'm not a driver. I'm a trucker. I've been a trucker for a lot of years.
So many truckers that are owner operators, I'm sure they're sitting back going, oh my God, yeah. Because I mean, the cost of having to repair anything, whether it's a car or a semi truck or whatever, has gone on exponentially. I mean, everything's so much more expensive. But then you add to the problem that not only were you going to have an engine rebuild, but your whole fuel system now has to be rebuilt because of all the metal fragments that's in it. I mean, that's something that I'm sorry, but I think most people, if that happened to them in their dream and their company and everything, you know, kind of. But it was like, I mean, our friend Lisa stepped in and she helped get you a job. But it was like, you know, you're down for a minute and then you're like, nope. I got a family to support. I got things that need to get done. And, you know, we're just going to, it's like I said, you know, Matt, we don't know why, but it's happened for a reason. We'll figure it out down the road, but God has a purpose, you know, this happened for a reason.
We all have challenges. And every driver faces this challenge. Every owner operator, I believe most, would agree that they have faced this challenge one or two times in their life. Pre-COVID, it was a little easier. Things were a little cheaper. Parts were easier to come by. You talk to Freightliner right now, which is what I run. I run a Freightliner. You talk to Freightliner, and parts are getting almost impossible to find. Some are delayed anywhere between 3 and 6 months to even get parts on. So if you're not getting them out of a used junkyard, you're not getting parts. Things have gotten dramatically hard for the North American truck driver. It doesn't matter where you're from. I don't care what country, Canada, United States, Mexico, Australia. It doesn't matter. And they have gotten extremely hard for the truck drivers out here on the road. And people don't really realize it. We have safety concerns. We have mechanical concerns. We have lower, below average rates going on right now where people are really struggling. We're starting to see fuel come down, but not at a point where it was pre-COVID. There are a lot of things that are going on that are really coming after the truck driver. And it's the one thing that I guess that's one of the reasons I didn't stay down is I am all about the drivers out here. A lot of them don't realize it, and they just started realizing it when I was a part of NADRA, but I will continue to fight with a positive attitude for every American, Canadian, Mexican, or Australian. I don't care where you're from, but every truck driver across the globe. I will be an advocate for them for as long as I can stand being an advocate for them, and that requires keeping those boots on and putting a positive attitude on. Staying down is not an option. Staying down means I lost, means I can't stand up and fight no more. So no matter what I went through in the last 30 days, staying down was not an option. And even my son agrees with me. In the beginning, I mean, when I went down with the truck, I had a pretty bad funk. A lot of people that I still associate with had a hard time getting a hold of me. I just didn't want to answer the phone. I was watching dreams shatter. I had worked 20 some years to get to that point. So it was a very hard hit, which a lot of our drivers take on a regular basis. When you lose everything you work for, it takes a lot out of you. But it's not, you can't stay down though. My son said even a boxer stays down for the count. A professional boxer will stay down for the count of 9 just to catch his breath. And he said, well, Dad, he says, you're no different. You need to stay down for the count of 9, catch your breath, take your time, and get back up at 9 and continue to fight. Well, stubborn dad doesn't stay down until 9. The stubborn dad stays down until about the count of 2, jumps back to his feet and says, let's go. I'm ready to go again. And that's what it was this time too. As long as I can keep getting back to my feet, I will continue to fight for this industry.
Absolutely. And I know this is, I mean, one of the biggest things is, and we had talked on the phone the other day, is, you know, now you're going from the mentality of being a company driver, company owner, to having to be, a driver for somebody else. And that's quite a shift and quite a change in your thinking process.
It's a very big shift. And at the same time, I want to let people know it's hard. It's hard to have a boss to tell you what to do again. But if you do it the right way and you really get the right mentality, I've always said, even when when I first started fighting for the American truck driver, North American truck driver, and I got on with the positive messages that I always said it's all about a mindset. It's all about making a simple decision on how you were going to look at things. If you look at things on a positive, and if you can train yourself to always look at the positive, you'll find something positive. Now, my positivity right now is the fact that I have a very good truck. It's very similar to what I was driving previously, so I know a lot about the truck. I know a lot about the electronic components. I know a lot about the engine. It's a very similar deal. So I'm not changing dramatically.
Absolutely. We're going to take just a quick commercial break, Matt. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Matt a little bit about the sleeper berth ruling that's currently in place and a new a proposal that has your name on it with the FMSCA. Oh my God, I can't speak today. FMSCA. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
Budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Budgeting can be rather overwhelming at first. It requires a plan and self-discipline, but there's no need to be scared. Once you get the hang of budgeting, it'll become easy and will no longer feel like you're restrained from your finances. It's a good feeling to know exactly how much you're spending and where your money's going. Start budgeting today, and you'll begin to save money and see a difference in your finances. Here are some great budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Know your why. The first step to creating a budget is understanding your why. What is your reasoning for creating a budget? What do you want to accomplish? Are you trying to pay off debt? Are you trying to save for a big purchase? Or are you just wanting to be more conscious of your spending? Knowing your why before creating a budget will help motivate you and keep you on track. Set goals. Setting goals will help you achieve your why. To pay off debt or to save a specific amount, you need to know how much you need to be saving and budgeting each month. It's much easier to save and budget when you have a specific goal. Saving just to save does not always keep you motivated. Know your income. Since drivers typically get paid by the mail, drivers have a fluctuating income. Unless you have a dedicated route, your paychecks will vary. Drivers with a set income have a much easier time creating their budget because they know the exact amount they're bringing in every month. If you have a fluctuating income, it's best to know your baseline, meaning you need to know the bare minimum expenses that you need to cover every month. Analyze your spending. Next, you'll need to analyze your spending habits. You can do that by looking at your bank account and examining where you're spending most of your money. Are you spending most of your money at truck stops? Fast food restaurants? Another great way to evaluate your spending is to make a list in a notebook or your cell phone for every purchase you make throughout the month. Keeping track of your spending will not only give you an idea of how much you're spending each month, it will also make you more mindful of your spending. Needs versus wants. When budgeting, it's important to know the difference between needs versus wants. Things you need as a truck driver: food, place to sleep, clothing, toiletries. Things you may want: entertainment, TV, video games, computers, Netflix or Hulu subscription, accessories for your rig. As a budgeter, you need to pay attention to your needs first and save for the things you want. Set a limit. Setting a spending limit is the best way to keep yourself from overspending. Write down all your necessary living expenses and keep in mind how much you want to save each month. Then determine how much you want to spend. A good method to help you set a limit is the envelope system. Budgeting takes time and self-discipline. It's not easy at first, but over time, it will become easier and easier. Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
I'm Hope Savara. Join us on tncradio.live at 7 p.m. Eastern with Building Strong Minds with your host, Dr. Christopher Cortman.
Welcome back. You are listening to Taillights with the Baums. I'm Angie Baum, and we've been talking with Matt Kilmer. Matt, so you had sent a link to me, and you sent the information a couple weeks ago about a proposal that you had sent to the FM. Oh my God! I'm not gonna CSA. Me, my tongue. Anyway, it was about the sleeper berth ruling. So currently, the way the sleeper berth ruling is it's either the 8-2 split or the 7-3 split. And you were proposing that it would be better for a lot of drivers if we did the 5-5 split. So you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, the thing is that the 7-3 and the 8-2 would work absolutely amazing if more was done on the shipper and receiver side, which we're not seeing. We're seeing a lot of targets on the truck driver, but we're not seeing very few. We're seeing very little being done with the shipper and receiver. We're seeing very little being done with the brokerages. So we got to look at some reality. Now, the way you got to write these exemptions it's very, very simple. You can't only look at what you want to see done. You also have to look at what FMCSA and DOT can get out of something. And I hate to say it, but it's no different than any other government agency anywhere. If you're not going to cooperate with them, they're not going to cooperate with you. So what I did was I have been looking at the parking issues. I have been looking at a lot of different things that FMCSA and DOT are looking at. And a lot of the times, especially with parking, the funds aren't available. So how can we work with FMCSA, DOT, and get an hours of change resolution taken care of? Well, you got to show DOT and FMCSA what they're going to benefit. This 5-5 sleeper berth benefits not just the truck driver out here on the road. It also benefits FMCSA and DOT. You're sitting at a receiver, a shipper, typically beyond the 3-hour mark. Well, if you're sitting there beyond the 3-hour mark, and you've already eliminated using the 7-3 and the 8-2, because you're going to lose time. It doesn't matter what it is. If you utilize the 7-3 and you're there for 3.5 hours, you just lost a half hour. That half hour is an 8-hour break. It could be utilized in a way where you're getting fuel. Whatever it is, you've lost that time. That's a half hour that you've lost. And more than generally, it's beyond that. So if you utilize the 5-5, not only are you getting the truck driver more time on the road, they're getting better rest. You know as well as I do, Angie, that most truck drivers do not sleep 8 to 10 hours a day. Some do, most don't. Most are 4, 5, 6 hours, and they're rested. They're ready to go. They're alert. And they end up sitting in a truck stop another 4, 5, 6 hours after their rest. And by the end of that time of just sitting there, they're exhausted already. They're already drained from sitting and waiting. So why not utilize it? Now, by utilizing the 5-5 and giving that driver more time and a better ability to get back on the road, continue taking care of their families, you're also upping the game for parking, which is a big safety issue right now. Instead of a truck sitting at a parking area, a rest area, a truck stop for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, you're now cutting it down to 5. So you're utilizing all the truck spaces, which is in accumulants is somewhere a little over 500,000 or 520,000 in the continental United States. That's how much truck parking we have available, 520,000 spaces, approximately. You're now, by allowing the 5-5 split, you're now upping that to over 1 million spaces a day that'll be available if the drivers are properly trained on how to utilize the 5-5. You just improve safety. You just improve truck parking. And you've got the driver able to go out and make money where they were losing it, sitting at shippers and receivers on a daily basis. It's a win-win for both the truck driver out here. It's a safety win. It's a FMCSA win to give them a little more time to appropriately come up with the funds to enhance truck parking out here, whether it be private or government. You have now given them, and that's what my proposal is. My proposal, which was supposed to be an exemption, FMCSA has now turned into a proposed rule change. FMCSA did that all by themselves. When I sent it in, it wasn't a proposed rule change. It was an exemption, which shows that FMCSA is looking at this in a different form, in a different way. They're seeing that now they're benefiting, the truckers benefiting. They're seeing the facts behind it that was written in the proposal, and they themselves are turning it into a proposed rule change. That says a lot all by itself. So what we need is a lot of people. Right now there's 180 comments on there. I have not seen a negative one in all the ones that I've read thus far. Some are even small trucking companies. What we need is that to blow up. We need the truck drivers to come together, put away their differences, look at the positive side, get a mind change, a mind shift, and get in there and make the comment that this will benefit them. They're getting more miles a day. They're not going to have to sit on a regular basis. They'll be able to break up their hours. They'll be able to better plan their days. There's going to be more truck parking as long as companies and drivers utilize it properly and instructed to how to do it. This could be very huge. This could be the crack in the door that we can get our foot into so that FMCSA starts listening to the actual drivers out here on the road and realizes that we're not ignorant people. We just want what's safe, what helps us be more compliant, that keeps us rolling. I think this is the way to get our foot in the door. A lot of people that read it I believe will also agree with me.
Well, I was just going to say that, one of the things we're going to talk about in the next segment is that there was a proposal through the FMCSA that they actually today extended because it received so many comments. So we need as many people as possible to do the same thing on this so that, they possibly will extend it to get more comments. And so I want to give everybody the information. You can go, and I'll repeat this again in the show, but you can go to regulations.gov and you're going to search up the docket number, which is going to be FMCSA-2023-0013. Again, it's regulations.gov. The docket you're going to be searching for is FMCSA-2023-0013. And I'll repeat that again at the end of the show. But the more comments we can get made on that, hopefully the FMCSA is going to see that, this is a real problem that affects a lot of truckers.
Well, absolutely it is. This affects, if it doesn't affect 95% of us out here, I'm going to be very surprised at that number. This is, the 5.5 has been used by teams for decades. It's a very productive way to keep a driver alert, rested, and moving down the road. There is no reason, if it can be utilized for teams, a driver can get out of the driver's seat for 5 hours, go take a break, while another driver drives down the road, which everybody knows is very difficult. Some people can't do that. But your partner's driving down a road while you're getting 5 hours of sleep, and the FMCSA is okay with the fact that after 5 hours you guys can switch again. There is no reason to think that a single driver cannot utilize the same thing without the truck moving. The truck not moving is actually going to give that driver better sleep than with a team that's moving down the road. Nothing against, teams have gotten accustomed to that for decades, and it's not hard to get accustomed to that. But now you're talking about a single driver utilizing the same thing. So if you're okay with a driver doing that with a team split with another driver sleeping in the bunk. It's no different than a single driver doing it with nobody in that passenger seat either. So there's absolutely no difference, and it's going to provide, it's not only going to provide a better situation for the actual truck driver out here and allow them more miles a day and a better way to be able to break up their day, but it's also going to come in handy when it comes to the people in our country getting services provided on a much better way. You're going to be, trucks are going to be coming in faster. We're not going to be delayed on the road so much. Loads will be moved in a better fashion. This is a win-win all the way around, no matter how you look at it. And there's no way FMCSA can look at this proposal, this rule change proposal, and say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do this. Absolutely. There's literally no negativity behind it.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit. Today, the FMCSA extended a comment period on the upcoming rule to crack down on unscrupulous freight brokers. So when we come back, we're going to talk just a little bit about that and what exactly that means for truckers. So you are listening to Taillights with the Baums. We're with Matt Kilmer, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Go ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Taillights with the Baums. I am Angie, and this is Larry.
How's everybody going?
You're so talkative tonight.
Matt's doing all the talking. I'm loving it.
We're talking with Matt Kilmer. When we were in the commercial break, we were talking a little bit about the sleeper berth proposal that you had made as far as doing like a 5-and-5 split. I wanted to let everybody know again that if you want to comment on this, you can go to regulations.gov. You're going to search for the docket number, and it's going to be FMCSA-2023-0013. If you're a truck driver and you understand the sleeper berth and how, good it would be for a 5-5 split, be sure to comment on that so the FMCSA understands that it's important to truckers. But Matt, we were talking a little bit in the commercial break. Can you kind of maybe explain to those who maybe aren't truckers, like how exactly the 5-5 split would work?
Okay, the 5-5 split will work a lot like the 7-3 and 8-2. Before I get into the numbers, I want to emphasize that the letter of exemption, and when you look up the docket, is listed twice. It's listed as a letter of exemption, and it's listed as a proposed rule change. So make sure you know which one you're clicking on to make the comment. You want to go to the proposed rule change to comment, not the letter of exemption. I personally am doing this for the drivers, not for myself. As far as the split is concerned, you're sitting at, let's say you have a 1 o'clock appointment, 1 in the morning appointment. A lot of us have them. You arrive there, they put you arrive at 12:30, they put you in the dog pen. They say, hey, well, as soon as we get a dock door. Well, 3:30 rolls around. You've been there 3 hours. They finally give you a door. You've already not able to take the 7-3 split, and you're already basically, the 8-2 is completely out of the question. You've already lost 3 hours while you're at that place. Now they give you a dock door. You're in that dock door for an hour and a half, for example, just as an example. So you're there right up until approximately 4:30 in the morning. They come out, they knock on your door, they hand you your paperwork. You've been there 4 3/4 hours. You have now 15 minutes. 15 minutes to, if you're not being rushed to pull slowly move away from the dock, check your trailer or whatever needs to be done. And you've hit your 5-hour mark. Now, if you did it right and you utilized it properly, you have just completed 5 of your 5-5 split. Now, that stopped the clock. That now gain all those hours that you have lost from your 7-3, from your 8-2, all of that now comes back on the 5-5. So if you drove 6 hours to get there, you still now, at the end of that 5-hour split, now have 5 hours left to drive. You didn't lose an entire day. You do not have to try to find a place to park for another 5 hours. You you're not in any kind of violation. You now have 5 hours to move either onto your next stop or to pick up your next load, whatever it is. You've got that 5 hours. Now, at the end of that 5 hours, you take another 5 hour break. You've got your 6 hours of driving back plus whatever your on time, your on duty time reverts back to. So it's a constant rollover of hours. If you actually utilize it and you really do your math correctly, you're actually on the road more than what you were prior using the 8-2, the 7-3, or the 10-hour consecutive. This is really going to be an improvement all the way around. What we got to be careful of is that shippers and receivers do not take advantage of it. That's the only negative side of this. But at the same token, you should be able to do, if you've got the 5-5, they don't have to cancel the 7-3 and the 8-2. You can still utilize it, but they need to add in the 5-5 split as an option. Most of us sit at these shippers and receivers much longer than 3 hours. We're losing time. We're losing money as drivers. I don't care if you're company, owner operator, or a lease operator, you're losing money. And we're out here to make a living for our families. So that's how it actually works. It works similar to the 8-2 and the 7-3. The problem is we never reach the 7 hour mark. We never reach the 8 hour mark. But it's very easy to hit the 5 hour.
Yeah,
it's very easy to hit the 6.
Absolutely. It just offers a little bit more flexibility when it comes to drivers and being able to schedule, especially the solo drivers, being able to schedule out what they're going to do. So I did want to kind of, so like you had said, like you had mentioned, what you had done was a notice of proposed rulemaking. And on Wednesday, so today, the FMCSA announced they also had another one that was a notice of proposed rulemaking. This one has to do with unscrupulous freight brokers, and pretty much it's just freight brokers who don't pay the drivers like they're supposed to. So originally, this proposal was supposed to end, I believe it was March the 5th. But because they've gotten so much feedback on it, what they've actually done is they're extending it so that there's going to be people there at the MATS Mid-America Truck Show that we've all been talking about to hear drivers. So at March 31st in Louisville, Kentucky, the FMCSA is going to be holding like an open forum, an open session for drivers to come in and talk about this notice of proposal rulemaking so that they can kind of, sound off. And some of the things that they're talking about in this is assets readily available. So in other words, it allows brokers or freight forwarders to meet the MA-21 requirements to have assets readily available, immediate suspension of broker and freight forwarding operating authority. There's a whole bunch into this, but the nice thing I thought about it is they're leaving this up until August 6th, so people have until August 6th to comment on it. But if you're going to be at MATS, they're also having an open session to allow drivers to go in there and kind of sound off, which could be kind of interesting. I didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
Well, my whole thinking is I hope everybody goes in with a real positive attitude. I know a lot of people are angry right now. A lot of drivers out there are angry right now. But you got to remember when you're taking something on, you can't go in angry. Anger is not the way to take anything on. You're not thinking properly. You're not speaking properly. You're speaking out of emotion. So if I can suggest anything to any driver who's going to go approach FMCSA is go in with a very positive, put a smile on your face, think through prior to you getting there what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, really put a positive message out there. We have enough negativity in our industry we need to eliminate. So put a positive message on it. You can really do that and put your foot down all at the same time. And it is actually, it actually echoes louder when you do it that way, versus when you're angry and you're speaking on emotion. It echoes for a very brief amount of time in a very few ears, but positivity echoes continuously. It can't be stopped. It's like a freight train that's out of control. You need to go in with a positive attitude. And I pray that FMCSA really does listen very, very well to the actual truck drivers that are out here on the road doing this job. I don't care if you've been out here for a day or you've been out here for 50 years. I hope they really listen, because none of them have been in a truck. None of them are currently in a truck. That they need to understand what it is that we face on a daily basis. They're not taking the truck driver's account into anything that's being done, no matter, I don't care if it's brokers, I don't care if it's proposed rule changes, I don't care if it's speed limiters. They're not taking into account what the truck driver is trying to say.
Absolutely. And I did want to mention real quick. So if you do go to CDL Life, they just posted this article today, and I just noticed at the bottom of it, and so I wanted to let everybody know that if you do want to attend this open session at the FMCSA at Mass, there is a registration that you do have to fill out. It doesn't cost you anything, but in order for you to have a seat in there, you do need to register. So if you do go to cdllife.com, this article is right at the top of the page. Go down to the very bottom of the article, and it does have a link for you to go into and register. And like you were saying, I can't agree with you more. If you're going to go, especially at Mass, and you're going to try to make an appearance and you want to voice your opinion, things are going to be heard much better when you're doing it in a calm, rational, and informed way. If you go in there with anger, they're not going to listen to you. You're going to cause chaos, and then we're not going to get anything accomplished, which is not going to help anybody. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody that coming up next, we've got Anderson and Baker with Clutch Time Sports. So if you're a sports fan, please be sure to stick around. These guys are awesome. Their show every week is worth sticking around for. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with Matt Kilmer. You are listening to Taillights with the Baums.
As a professional driver, the engineers at Front Lane know that you remain focused on the road regardless of weather and traffic conditions. That's not always true of the drivers behind you. Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright red LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standard set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states. It's Tailbone by Front Lane.
This infoblog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. ISS score for truck drivers explained and how to find it. An inspection selection system score is called ISS score, was created by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, to help law enforcement officers determine if the truck should be inspected. The inspection selection system score is frequently used to determine if your truck will receive a bypass command or not. There is often confusion between the ISS score and the CSA score. While there's a correlation between the two, they're not the same thing. The CSA score identifies high-risk motor carriers. The score is based on the performance data of the driver. The ISS score uses a combination of different CSA categories known as Behavior Analysis and Safety Improvement Category. That's basics for short, to determine the carrier's overall inspection rating from 0 to 100. Similar to the CSA score, the lower, the better. What determines your ISS inspection value? Unsafe driving, hours of service, HOS, driver fitness, controlled substances and alcohol, vehicle maintenance and cargo, hazardous material. There are 3 different ISS ratings categories: inspect, optional, or pass. Inspect, 75 to 100. Optional, 50 to 74. Pass, 1 to 49. ISS scores can determine how often you'll get inspected. Although some roadside inspections are at random times, most will be as a result of a higher ISS score. How to find ISS score. The FMCSA has an online portal where carriers can log in to check their ISS scores. You'll log in using your DOT-issued PIN. From there, you'll see the company information section on the main screen. Next, click the blue button labeled Inspection Selection System Info. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hi, I'm Charlie Claiborne, and I'm excited to join the TNC Radio.live family. You can hear my show, Highway Fever, on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Mind Your Trucking Business. One quick question. What have you done today to make trucking better for tomorrow? Join me, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Mind Your Trucking Business on Highway Fever.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums. I'm sorry. My producer, Tom, is pretty funny. He made me laugh during the commercial break. We're talking with Matt Kilmer. So, Matt, I figured we kind of discuss at the end of the show. I know a lot of people in the trucking industry, and especially on social media, were familiar with the NADRA. And unfortunately, you had decided to kind of part ways a few weeks ago. And so I figured I'd let you, have an opportunity to kind of address that, because I know you haven't really had a chance to speak out about that.
No, I've kind of bit my tongue a little bit. There was a lot of negativity that surrounded that shortly after I left. I didn't want to partake in that. I still think highly of a lot of those people. In fact, all of those people that have been involved in NADRA, including Charlie Claiborne. Still think highly of every one of them. We had some differences. My resignation was more because I stood on a principle, and I said, and it felt like we were kind of getting away from it. We got way away from it. I still believe in NADRA. Okay. I spent too much time with that organization and put too much time into it to not believe in it. What I did was step away because my principals were telling me to step away. There was a line in the sand. I wasn't going to go beyond, and I didn't. I won't go beyond it. I stayed on my line. But I look forward. I really do. Charlie Claiborne is a very smart man. The people that are still working with him are very good people. I refuse to say anything negative about any of them. A disagreement among adults can be very easily done by a shake of a hand and a wishing well, and I will not do it any other way. I believe in them. I still believe in them, but I believe that we got off course, and I had to stand my line. Now, I plan and hope that the future allows us to work together again. I hope that there is a way that we can shake hands, move forward, fight together for the North American, and every other driver that's in this world, because we all face a lot of the same things. So we need to work together. I believe that Charlie and I will agree that no matter what, there's not enough groups out here to cover the 3.5 million truck drivers. And we need to utilize what we can, how we can, to bring all of those truck drivers, whether they're company, lease, or owner-operator, together. We need to work with OIDA. We need to work with CDLU. We need to work with FMCSA and DOT. We need to work with all the different trucking associations everywhere. We need to bring them together. We need to find a way to bring them all together and have a sort of coalition, which will be the magnet to all the little metal fragments everywhere. And I believe we can do that. It's a big mission, but I believe it's a possibility. And I'm going to stay positive about that message, and I'm going to continue that message forward, as well as, promoting the different organizations that are out here that most of us don't know about, that are designed to help the truckers and the trucker families. There's a lot of them, and people aren't aware of them. So, I will be moving forward. I am developing a very, very good plan. I hope that it works because I believe it's going to bring a lot of positivity and a lot of unity back to trucking. And I believe we can work with all these individuals from NADRA that I believe are still fighting to this day. So I look forward to working with them again.
I was going to say, that's the one thing, and we can all agree on, is that, as the trucking community, the one thing most truckers haven't done is unite together. And I think you're right. I think that, all of us, as far as individual organizations, need to try to work together to try to really get some changes made, because the truckers' voices aren't being heard in Washington. They're not being heard. Just like you said, the FMCSA, none of them are truck drivers. And so it'll be nice to see if we could try to promote some positivity, get some groups together so we can, see some positive changes in our industry.
Well, we need to get away from me, and every truck driver needs to get away from I, and we need to focus on we, W-E. And I believe every organization needs to do the same thing. With the organizations that are out here, unfortunately, a lot of them, and I'm not saying every one of them, but a lot of them are about that organization. They're not looking outside the box at, okay, well, we need to work with this. We need to work with them. We need to bring everybody together and work together as a unified front with a positive, uplifting message. Everybody's eyes on the sky, not on the ground. We need to do that. The more we do that, the more it's not going to just impact our community within the trucking industry, but the more it's going to impact the communities outside our industry as well. And I've always preached that. And I will continue to. I believe that we can really turn not just our community around, we can turn our whole world around if we do this properly. And that's the one reason I stepped away is, I didn't see that possibility. I saw that disappear down the road. And I want to focus on that objective, which is a very large objective. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it's the biggest objective that I can look forward to.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everybody, your notice of proposed rulemaking is up on the FMCSA's website. We need you guys to comment on this. It's important. So you can go to regulations.gov. You're going to search for docket number FMCSA-2023-0013. For those of you that follow Larry and I will put this up tonight on our Married to the Road Facebook page, so that information is up there. Matt, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. I always love speaking with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to be here and listen to all you drivers out there. Listen, Jesus be sitting with you, riding with you tonight. I hope he gets you all home safe. That's where we all want to be. So, be safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. Keep the rubber side down. And Jesus, watch out after all of you.
Absolutely. We want to remind everybody that coming up next, we've got Anderson and Banker with Clutch Time Sports. Don't forget, tomorrow night, we got Charlie Claiborne and Highway Fever at 7 p.m. Central. And Larry and I have got an announcement of our own. We have some new news. We actually started a new podcast this week. If you're into true crimes, you're going to love our new podcast. It's called Trucking True Crime Podcast. You can find us on Facebook or wherever you listen to your podcast. And it's a lot of fun, wouldn't you say?
I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite ones.
Oh, you speak. He speaks.
You pulled the strings, so I'm out.
But our podcast is kind of humor. I mean, it's not humorous, but it's talking about, of course, truck drivers who are serial killers, but also truckers who were victims of serial killers. So if you're a true crime fan, be sure to check us out. And don't forget, you can always visit our page on Facebook, Married to the Road, where you can learn all about our life on the road with our 3 fur babies and get to see our super sleeper truck. So, Matt, again, thank you so much for being with us. We're definitely going to have you back on here soon, because I know you've got some big plans in the work for the trucking industry. And everybody else, don't forget, you can join Larry and I right back here next Wednesday night for Taillights with the Baums. Everybody be safe, and we'll see you next Wednesday.